We're rolling? Awesome. Welcome to hour 2 of the entrepreneurship improv pitch competition. So before we start the next hour, we're going to meet Rebecca Runyon, former entrepreneurship student and currently the director of the Liberal Arts and Sciences Innovation and Entrepreneurship Academy program, which is new. So Rebecca's going to come up and talk about entrepreneurship in the Liberal Arts and Science College. So welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Judy. It's a great time to be here. I would say, obviously, there's lots of exciting innovation and entrepreneurship efforts happening across campus, and I'm excited to be leading those happening in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. I began back in January, and already this semester, I've had the pleasure of connecting with so many students who are already working on great ideas that are making the world a better place. And something that was striking to me when I came into this position was to learn that the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences actually produces more businesses than any of the next 3 colleges combined. And that was exciting for me because it made me realize that the students in LAS are already innovators. They're already people who are trying to make that impact in the world. And the academy that I direct, the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Academy, is an opportunity for students to really accelerate that impact. And so we have students from all majors all across the college. So there might be a chemistry student sitting next to a psychology major, but they're all coming together to work on an idea that will make an impact in an area, whether it's a traditional business or entrepreneurship, making an impact in an existing organization. Or we also have paths for social entrepreneurs and civic innovators. And so the prerequisite that our Dean, Yat Schmidtman, loves to say is that the prerequisite for the academy is you have to be curious. Students do not need an idea when they enroll in the academy, but they're sure to leave with one and really a clear path in order to make that impact. And so what the experience really entails for students is it's great for them to plug in when they have about 2 years left at the university, because the fullest experience for the academy is 2 years long. During the first year, students go through a series of modules that equip them with a general set of skills that will help them bring whatever their idea is to life. And so the first year is set up, the modules vary from technical skill sets for entrepreneurship and innovation, communication skills, negotiation, just a broad range of things that belong in the toolkit for allowing students to successfully address real world issues. And I have a great committee that's helping me to bring this academy to life, experts on each of the modules from across the college. So we have department chairs from various departments. We have people who have been at the college a long time and work in a variety of areas. And so I feel very supported as I'm bringing this to life. And students ultimately go forward into the second year of the academy and will be paired up with a mentor. And so the special thing about that is that if, for example, we have a computer science student developing an app, that person would then be paired up with an app developer who's an expert in the field, and they're able to work together throughout that second year of the academy to be, learning these successes and failures of that mentor and helping the student really make that impact that they came into the academy to make. The first year of the academy, students do receive 1 credit per semester. So if you're a student listening today, how to enroll is by going and signing up for LAS 345X. The name of that class is Innovation and Entrepreneurship 1. And then we'll go forward and explain how to get plugged in for the rest of the year's experience. But if you're curious, there's also an informational session occurring on April 27th, so next week, here at the Student Innovation Center up in the Launchpad. That's room 4250. And so students can come hear more about the academy, ask me questions. There will be snacks, so fun for there. But ultimately, I just encourage students, if you're curious, reach out. My email address is runyon, runyon, @iastate.edu, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions that. But again, just if you are curious about making an impact in the world, we are able to help you accelerate that impact and really bring your idea from concept to creation. So thank you for tuning in, and I'm excited to connect with you.
So I hope my voice is picking up here, but we've got students lining up in the hallway to pitch. But before we do that, Rebecca, I would love for you to share your background in entrepreneurship. So Rebecca was a very prolific student entrepreneur at Iowa State, and your story is fabulous. So maybe talk about the businesses, because it's multiple, that you started, and even how you've helped other student entrepreneurs. If you don't mind sharing your own personal story and why we're so excited to have you in this role in the Liberal Arts and Science College.
Absolutely. Thanks, Judy. I was excited when I heard about this position because I was a student myself at Iowa State who benefited from a similar program. I was studying in the College of Ag and Life Sciences, and so I was plugged into a variety of their initiatives, including the Student Incubator Program. And then I went on to participate in SciStarters through the Papa John's Center. For those who may not know, SciStarters is the summer business accelerator program where students essentially intern for their own company. And the company that I was interning for, the company I founded, was called Lunch Socks. And so Lunch Socks sells wool socks to provide meals for kids in need. And I started that company my junior year after realizing that really business is an agent of social change. And I had not necessarily thought about that when I came into college, never expected to leave as an entrepreneur. But when I realized that business is how our world is being shaped, that I wanted to be a part of that. And so I launched the company out of my college apartment my junior year, and was very fortunate to have so much support from those at the university to bring the idea to life. I wasn't born knowing skills of entrepreneurship and innovation, but I am just very thankful for the impact that those at the university had, and I'm excited to be giving that same support to students who are in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. The other company that I started sort of while at Iowa State was Bessie's Parlor. It's an ice cream business, and that this is still in the works of getting officially up and running, but definitely a great learning opportunity through both of those businesses. And I also had the fortunate opportunity to intern for another startup that was founded by an Iowa State student, actually a team of students. And I started off just doing their social media. And this company was developing solar food dehydrators for farmers in Eastern Africa to help eliminate food waste. And when I started, I kind of had to be convinced to even apply for the job, but it was one of the best decisions of my life because I went from being just a social media intern to eventually the operations manager, and I fit a variety of roles in between that time. But ultimately, when I was working for Kinosol, since it was such a small team in the startup environment, I was learning so many valuable skills that innovators and entrepreneurs need. I was learning it firsthand by working side by side with their CEO and other top leadership team members. And through that experience, I also was able to travel with Kinosol several times to Africa. And during that experience, it was helping me to see entrepreneurship at a global scale as well. And so I just am very thankful for the kind of windy path that led me to the position as director of the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Academy. But I do feel it's a great fit because of my background and experience with working for other startups. Another startup that I worked for a little bit last year, just doing some marketing help for them, would be Home Painter. And I think that this is just an example of how interconnected all of these student entrepreneurs and innovators really are at the university. Obviously, innovators are creative people, and so have more than just the skills that they might be applying to their own business. And so through SciStarters, the summer business accelerator, I was connected with a team who is working on Home Painter. And so what that is, it's essentially Zillow for painters, connecting homeowners with paint contractors. And so I was helping out to market that product and get more painters onboarded, more homeowners aware of the service. And so I guess my experience is that collaboration has been just such an important piece of my entrepreneurial journey.
Perfect. Thanks, Rebecca. And Rebecca mentioned SciStarters at noon today. You can tune in because we're going to announce the next cohort of SciStarters. And we will have SciStarters from every college, including Liberal Arts and Science College this year. So Rebecca's now going to become our judge. So thank you, Rebecca. So Rebecca will now become the judge for this hour's pitch competition, improv pitch competition. So I'm going to pop out in the hallway and see if our first pitcher is ready to go. And for Rebecca, every student will have 2 minutes to pitch, and Sam will time that. There'll be a buzzer that goes off, and then you have 2 minutes for Q&A. And then you get to pick the winner at the end. Let's see who's ready. Okay. Sam will send you time in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Rebecca's gonna judge you. I'm gonna get out of the camera. And
Did you have?
whenever you're ready.
Over 80 million pounds of food is wasted in the US every year according to RTS. Hi, my name is Sean Hamilton, and my product aims to decrease this massive issue by decreasing food waste. My product is a scale that can that will transfer pounds to cups. When you are cooking, the recipe typically would call for half a cup of tomatoes or 3/4 a cup of celery or 5 cups of strawberries, whatever. But when you go to the store, there's a major disconnect in that you buy produce in pounds, not in cups. So what do? Using my scale, a consumer can take what they have already and see, okay, with 3 simple steps, the customer can first select the produce from a drop-down menu on the scale. Second, simply place the produce onto the scale. And third, the scale will automatically do the conversion for you. So you simply read the readout provided. So the customers now have the power to portion the food for themselves, so they know which tomato do I use. If the recipe calls for 1 cup of tomato, do you use the big juicy one or do you use the smaller tomato? Because if the consumer doesn't know, then and they start to cook, then before they realize it, they have the 1 cup of tomato they need, but they still have half a tomato left over. At best, the consumer will reuse this tomato in a future dish. At worst, this tomato will be completely wasted. A major competitor on the market today is food box delivery services such as Blue Apron or HelloFresh. These customers provide the pre-portioned food boxes. Thank you. All any questions?
Thanks, Sean. So I would just be curious as to why you decided that this product would be located in individuals' kitchens versus having it at the store.
Yeah, so I think definitely long range, it would be great to get it in stores themselves. However, I think initially that there would be a bit of pushback with stores because frankly, I think that they make money off of that waste. So if for them, it's better if every customer buys the big juicy produce versus maybe the smaller produce that they might actually need for the dish.
What do you imagine is the most difficult thing when commercializing this product?
I think the figuring out the equation of the weight to cups, because there's a lot of factors, it depends on the recipe. So I think the first iteration of the product would be in general with maybe 12 to 15 of the most basic fruit and vegetables that most recipes call for, and then the second iteration would be something we start to be more niche. So maybe you can select, okay, will I dice these tomatoes or I crush these tomatoes? Because especially with products that have a lot of water in them, that can really throw off the weight to cup ratio.
And do you have any future ideas of things that would be beyond the cup level? Of there other units of measure, whether it's tablespoon, teaspoon, what thought has been given to that so far?
Yeah, so in my experience, the biggest disconnect is with the pounds to cups. However, this can be scaled up or scaled down depending on the unit of measurement.
Who do you envision as your target customer for this device?
I think middle to less experienced cooks, because I know people, expert cooks like my grandmother, they know that they can look at a tomato and they know how much that tomato is. But cooks like myself who are not very experienced, whereas pick whatever one looks best off the produce shelf. So to answer your question directly, the less experienced to the medium experienced chefs.
how did you land on the issue of food waste?
It's a massive issue facing our world today. We see all the time about, how many people are starving throughout the world, and we in America are, we have a lot of food and we waste a lot of food. So by decreasing that food waste, not only is it more economical for families, it's more sustainable.
So for the people who have already bought, the 10 tomatoes at the store, they brought it home, they now are using it, oh, I actually only needed 2 tomatoes to make it for my recipe. What suggestions do you have for those other 8 tomatoes per se?
Yeah, I think those other tomatoes, could be used in alternative recipes. There's, you can can the tomatoes if, or you can refrigerate them to extend the shelf life by a few days. There's a lot of ways you can use produce. So I would just be creative, do maybe some exploring and looking around to see what can be used for, what alternative uses can be used for those produce.
That's all we have time for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Good job.
Okay, all right, cool. I failed this hour to introduce the topic. So the topics the students received was an innovative kitchen gadget. You knew that, though, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So the next up will be Ben Groti. So we'll bring her in whenever he's ready. All right.
Stand by mic.
Yeah, you're gonna stand by the mic. And Sam's gonna time you 2 minutes. And then Rebecca gets 2 minutes to ask questions.
Let's ask questions.
What? 3 minutes for questions, sorry.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Do you or anyone you know suffer from multiple or musculoskeletal disorders like arthritis, tendonitis, cerebral palsy, or any other form? Do they struggle to perform basic kitchen operations like turning on their faucets? Primarily, do they struggle with twist-to-turn operations like turning on the knob of a faucet? Kitchen knobs, unlike modern kitchen handles, make it hard for people with these disorders to turn on their faucets because of the twist-to-turn operation, because it's difficult on their wrists and it's difficult on their muscles. Unfortunately, many homes and many properties today still have these knobs within them, and it's difficult for these people, causing them still struggle to get their water turned on and water turned off. Hi, my name is Ben Grody. I am the inventor of InstaGrips. InstaGrips is an ergonomic handle that connects to these faucets, allowing the user to easily turn their water on and off. How does it work? It works similar to that of your standard bar wood clamp, where you simply place it on top of the knob, tighten it to fit, and then you're able to turn your water on and off. That also gives the user the ability to easily remove the clamp from the knob and use it on other knobs within their home, or maybe even use it on a doorknob if that's how they prefer. Also, it gives them the ability to use it on, or as they move from apartment to apartment or from home to home, it gives them the ability to use it that way. Thank you.
What competition exists in this space already?
So there's like basic like knobs for door handles. There's none specifically for like a kitchen faucet knob. So, and they're all basically pretty like standard, like insurance rates sort of competition, where it's like very bland, very boring, invent more of like a kind of a fun, inviting sort of product that doesn't make you feel out of place for having a disability.
You mentioned knobs, faucets, and you said it's like a twist and turn motion. What about opening jars and that for food items?
That would be
an application there, or maybe a second product?
It could be a second product in the line. There's a lot of stuff that's already available for those types of twist to turn operations. And then it's also the range of like these faucet knobs are usually like 2 inches in diameter. versus like your pickle jar is like 3 inches. So trying to create something that can have that type of versatility would be difficult, but definitely it could be like a second product that has a wider range diameter to attach to.
How did you land on this idea?
It was something that I actually explored a couple years ago for like briefly in like a project, but then I never like pursued it further. And then like, you know, I know some people who have some of these disorders, so it's been kind of interested in solving problems like this.
What do you see as the biggest obstacle to making this happen?
I would say just maybe figuring out the engineering behind it, I guess, initially. That'd probably be like the first big obstacle, is figuring out, okay, how specifically are we gonna get the mechanism to work? So like I said before, it'd be like your standard kind of wood clamping system. So making it so it has enough range to fit on these handles, and then also having, you know, the ability to, or you know, also like look nice and have good form for the people that are using them.
What do you think your like first step would be after leaving here today to make this?
I would begin prototyping this in a 3D modeling platform, and then begin 3D printing it to get like basic prototypes, and then start testing it with people who have those disorders.
Very wise. How expensive, talk to me about prices. Like, do you think it would be a expensive product to bring to life, or?
I don't think manufacturing wise it'd be very expensive, because it'd be all plastic parts with maybe some minor metal interior parts. And then price wise, the other competitors that are on the market are all like around $20 and under. So we could probably keep it just right around there, even a little bit more, because that's a little more like a feel to it.
How do you imagine getting in touch with your target audience?
That's a great question. I guess just reaching out initially to people who I would know, or like people who I know who have it, and having them reach out to their communities of people around them, and also probably visiting with like physical therapists and people who work with those people with those disorders on a day-to-day basis, and just telling them about my product, and then having them maybe recommend it to people with those disorders.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, take a breath and then you get to start all over again. Sorry.
The last thing you want to see when you open up the refrigerator door is mold. Mold plays a part into a big issue of our time, which is food waste. 40% of food ends up in the landfill, which means money going down the drain, as well as environmental costs with methane that is created when the food waste decomposes there. I have developed a solution with Fresh Sense. Fresh Sense is a silicone bag that holds a sensor in its liner that can track the amount of time that a piece of produce or bread or food is in the bag, as well as what the condition of the food is for the status of how fresh, or if it is starting to spoil. The most dangerous part of mold is mycotoxins, and so this would be able to sense the formation of spores and the mycotoxins within this bag. Fresh Sense would be a great solution for your average individual or families that are cooking at home, as well as eventually could be scaled up for food distributors and grocery stores who lose a lot of money every year with molded food. So Fresh Sense can be also connected to your phone with this sensor, and then you'd be able to easily tell on an app what the status of your food is. So Fresh Sense provides a solution to both save costs as well as prevent environmental costs as well with food entering the landfill. So when you look into your fridge, instead of saying ew, you can say ah, and know that you have a recipe that is ready to be made.
Awesome.
Tell me a little bit more about how the sensor works.
Sure. So the sensor is embedded into the lining. And so as I was looking up about mold, I saw the formation of mycotoxins. So the sensor would be able to tell the formation of mycotoxins. So it starts in the air as well as in the produce itself. So by having the lining around the food itself, the the lining would communicate to the sensor, and then the sensor would communicate to your phone. As well as the status of your produce, a large connection is to the moisture that is in a product. So as it sits there longer, more moisture is accumulated. So I think that would be also a connection that moisture in the lining would speak to the sensor, and then the sensor would speak to the app.
Is it safe to assume that this is a reusable product?
Yes, so that is why we would encase the sensor into the lining, not have it like on the exterior or the interior of the lining. So it'd be protected from like the colder temperatures in the fridge, and as well as silicone bag, so it could be reused.
So to wash it, I'm assuming you can't put this in the dishwasher or something, or how does the cleaning of it work? with
Yeah, so
sensor
the
being
lining would
embedded?
be thick enough that the sensor would not be affected being in the dishwasher. So yeah, we definitely have to look into making sure that the lining is at the appropriate thickness that it would not affect it, but we want it to be as user friendly as possible, so.
You mentioned some users for this. What would be your first step for the target market? Like who would your first customer be?
Yes, I would say the first customer, I think would be, actually I think it could go mainstream as far as it'd be very user friendly, and families would see a lot of use in it with already storing their products in their fridges. So I think it could go mainstream is what I'm thinking at this time.
Do you know anything about the competition for something similar existing?
I would say, well, the regular competition would be Tupperware and other storage devices that people would, they're just familiar with Tupperware and, you know, those other products that they'd be afraid to use a new one. Other sealing, there's regular silicone bags, which I actually use, and those are really great for extending the life of the product. Yeah, those are the only ones I'm familiar with.
You said that it will save money and food. Which of those do you think will be most compelling for the customer?
Probably cost, yes. And being able to show people in how much money, right? Because I don't think people are usually aware of how much they throw away or how much cost that actually is. And so I think that'd be very compelling to say, this is the amount of costs that you are currently throwing away. This is how much you can save. So
How will you be spending time on that education side while balancing, you know, the product?
I think that would have to go in with the marketing of the product. So balancing probably education first, because people need to know that there's a problem before they buy into it. So I would say focus on education first and then follow up with our product to show them that that's the solution.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. You're good.
Awesome. So that concludes our hour of innovative new kitchen gadgets. So Rebecca has a couple of minutes to regroup, and then you get to come up and make your announcement on who wins. The winner gets $100. Do you need a little time?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, so Rebecca, come on up. Let me make sure there's one. That's it.
I was really impressed with all of the presentations this morning. I think it's cool that they didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare their improv pitches, but yet they had very thorough and well thought through ideas and were able to answer my questions well. So kudos to all of the participants today. I also just want to thank you for being socially minded. I like that all of the businesses kind of fallen under the umbrella of social entrepreneurship, which if you heard my intro earlier, I'm a social entrepreneur by nature, but without further ado, I'd like to give the $100 to Ben Brody. His idea was to be having a twist and turn device called Instagrip that would help those with arthritis or cerebral palsy to be able to open kitchen items in an easier manner. I think that he has a well-defined target market, had a clear path for commercialization, and was just really impressed with his overall presentation. So again, congratulations to everyone, and then we'll be getting the $100. So congrats.
Awesome, Rebecca, thank you for being with us this hour, and we're very, very excited about all the wonderful things going on in liberal arts and science colleges related to entrepreneurship and innovation. So you're doing a great job. I'm glad you stayed at Iowa State and are continuing to do that great work. So this will conclude this hour. We will rejoin at 1 for the afternoon sets of pitches and the next topic. So thank you all for listening in.